The third one is not actually consciously thinking about implementing sustainability processes. So this is often done when people think that if we implement well, it will stay. And I've got some real stories about this. We did a great piece of work with an organization, a packaging organization. It was a behavioral safety program. So we'd done pilot work, which I'll explain in a minute. We did pilot work. We went into rollout across, I think, 13 sites using an integrated approach of development and tools and techniques and training people to coach people that were behaving unsafe, etc., etc., etc. The company was bought by another organization, and we just reached the end of rolling out across the 13 plants. And of course, I was wheeled in to meet the new owners. They were said, "What are you helping us with?" I explained the behavioral safety program, explained where we were with it. We'd got to near the end of the rollout phase. We were designing in the sustainability phase, and they just didn't understand it. They just thought, if you've been to all the 13 sites and done the implementation, you've finished. And yeah, on one level, you're upset that you've lost the work, but that's not how we think, really. We think about doing the right job. And I couldn't get them to understand that everything that had been done would not stick. If you go back to one of my earlier little pencil graphs, wouldn't stick unless we propped it up with proper processes. And, that was a sad day when they couldn't understand that. And what happened was the program's really, there's 2 or 3 pieces of that program that exists, but their safety performance, they've had some serious accidents over the years that it's dropped off. It's a shame that we don't think like this as much as we should. So I've broken this down into 3 elements, and the first one I've really addressed, I suppose. The expectation is that if we implement well, it will make it stick. Do a really good job in implementing it and it will stick. It won't. It's a bit, I'm into hard and soft systems, and part of soft systems is to understand human behavior. And you might remember the rat example. Pavlov, the behavioral psychologist. You put a rat in a maze. He finds his way around the maze. He gets to the cheese, finds the cheese. He does it quicker next time. Does it quicker the time after. Does it quicker the time after. You take the walls of the maze away, and the rat's learned some new behaviors. Still follows the pattern of the walls, finds the cheese. Well, don't want to describe employees as rats, but there's a relationship between the example. So the rat follows the pattern with the walls not there, but over time, he's not daft. He sees that the walls have gone. So what does he do? He shoots in a straight direction to the cheese again. People won't stick to the new ways unless the new ways are made visible, hard, put it in my hand. If those systems aren't put there, then we get issues about old habits creeping back in. So the expectation that if we do it well, it will stick, I'm afraid doesn't really show itself as being true. Lack of understanding that there's a third phase. I'm going to describe the third phase, and then you'll be pleased to know that it'll be question times, and I've reached my intended script. So lack of the third phase is when we embark with work on a client, we're quite upfront, right? Let's do some pilot work. If it works, let's continue the pilot work in a rollout. But when you get into rollout, it doesn't need much of us, but you need to be thinking about owners and processes to prop it up so it's always in your organization. And a failing program, this is the real, you see a lot of it, I see a lot of it, we see a lot of it. A failing program encourages a new program to launch. And that's, I've seen it often. Oh, we did lean 5 years ago. Where is it? Oh, we're doing, company X. We are brilliant program. We've designed it ourselves. Well, what happened to lean? It wasn't for us. Yeah, but there's lots of good things in it. Yeah, well, we've moved on. And it's a shame because the energy that needs to be generated to start something again over time wanes. Employees enthusiastic about doing things that make their job better, that gets less and less. So let me just go to this next diagram. So you can see he likes graphs. So I'm going to draw another graph. So this is the y axis. This is the x. This is time. This is results, and I'd like those results to be hard results, like we said before, hard results, new skills, behavior, and a cultural shift. And the cultural shift comes in this sustainability piece. So I've drawn 3 phases here. I've already mentioned them. Pilot, don't chew off too much. Do something, do it well, do it in a prominent place, learn from it, take the learning into rollout. So we're now into rollout, we've got a rollout phase. And then we're into a sustainability phase, making it stick. And it's a purposeful phase. So let's start on the journey on this graph. Let's start, what should we have, green? That's where we are. That's where we are with results. That's where we are with appropriate skills. That's where we are with culture. The pilot will start to exponentially lift after what I nickname the faffing about period. So you've got some uncertainty, it's not clear, but then it starts to take off. And when you're at the takeoff stage, you've already got one eye on the rollout phase. So I'm not talking about us as consultants, I'm talking about the organization that we're working with. We're encouraging them to start looking at this now, because if we use a program, in our case, it's that integrated framework. If we use 1 or 2 of those, we've learned so much about the organization, we can accelerate through rollout by replicating that template. And as well as replicating that template in rollout, all of these things are creating their own little ripples. So those little ripples are then starting to look at other organizational development opportunities inside the business, like, for example, cascading objectives, joining the senior management up with common objectives and things like this, matrix organizations, their communication processes, all sorts of things. So you've then got a ramping up. So it's reached a successful, this is where we were with that example. I obviously can't name the company, but this is where we were with behavioral safety. And then it went over 18 months or 2 years because it didn't have this third phase, which is a conscious process of propping up on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, keeping alive the rat in the maze, keeping that process, reminding people of the shape of the maze, reminding them of the tools and techniques. And what we have is we've got 10 sustainability processes that we look for 10 owners, 5 owners, they may own 2, depends on the size of the organization, and they own those processes. And again, it's almost another webinar in itself. But those 10 processes are things like senior management involvement, refresher training, onboarding training, system ownership, KPIs stitched into daily performance for change management and business improvement, those sort of things. System owners, documentation and audits, that's the rat in the maze. Put the audit back and he knows what he's meant to be following. So we consciously put those 10 in there. And as I said, sadly, there's too many examples of where this has been brilliant in achieving 1, 3 or more important agreed measures of success, only to see, and this is called Hawthorne effect, isn't it? I've mentioned it earlier today, to see Hawthorne effect eat the whole thing up, and eventually then you stood here going, what we want is another program. Then you go back to there and up you go again. And change management consultants talk about the S shape. Start here, go up, go down. Start here, go up, go down. And there's a lot of S shape, but actually that's, I started this webinar talking about inefficiencies. Doing that, going back, reigniting things, recreating things, putting new things, that's just inefficient. And that's my point, that we take inefficiency into the design and the implementation of OD programs, and it's our own worst enemy. So that's the key drawing about sustainability.